Welcome to Unspoken Affairs. Some nights slip by quietly, almost like whispers brushing past your ear. And others thunder through the silence like screams no one dares to answer. This story isn't about right or wrong in the way we usually think of it. It isn't about villains and heroes or the neat lines people love to draw between good and bad. It's about the kind of truth that grows in shadows. So quietly at first that nobody notices it until it swells so loudly it can no longer be ignored. It began, as many regrets do, with something small. A door left open. A mistake. A glance that carried more weight than it should have. It was past midnight when I found myself still awake, folding laundry in the dim glow of our hallway lamp. The air carried the soft hum of the dryer, warmth radiating into the corridor in a way that made the walls sweat and my skin stick to the cotton I was folding. Everyone else had already gone to sleep. Upstairs, Mark was in bed, his breathing steady and distant, unaware of how far I was from rest. Folding laundry was my ritual, my way of pulling the pieces of the day back together when life itself felt unraveled. I sorted shirts by person, socks, into neat little pairs, stacks arranged just right before leaving them outside each bedroom door. It was one of the few things in my life I could still shape with precision. One of the few corners of control I had not yet surrendered. I was nearly finished when it happened. I held one last stack of freshly folded shirts, soft and warm against my arms. I turned toward what I thought was the guest room door, but I was mistaken. The hinges gave a slow creak as the door swung open. The light from the hallway spilled into a room I hadn't meant to enter, and there he was, Liam, my stepson. 19 years old, tall and awkward in his own skin, shaped like a man, but still carrying the wounds of a boy left behind too soon. He didn't notice me. His back was turned, his shoulders hunched as he sat on the edge of his bed. He wasn't wearing a shirt, and his head bent low, his spine curved inward as if he were trying to fold himself into nothingness. He looked tired, not the kind of tired a good night's rest could fix, but the kind that seeps into your bones and hollows you out from the inside. I froze in the doorway. For a moment, the only sound was the hum of the dryer and the faint crackle of rain against the window. Then I heard him mutter to himself, voice low, almost broken. Why am I built like this? It wasn't anger. It was shame. It clung to the air like smoke, heavy and suffocating. I slipped back, pulling the door shut quietly before he could notice me. But I couldn't shut the image out of my mind. That posture, that voice. The weight of his words, it wasn't the fleeting insecurity of a teenager. It was something deeper, darker, something I recognized all too well. That night, sleep never came. Mark's breathing beside me was slow and steady, but mine was restless, jagged, filled with thoughts I couldn't quiet. Again and again, I saw Liam's face in the dim glow of the hall light. His body curled into itself like the world had already decided he wasn't enough. Morning arrived, pale and gray, the sky still swollen with leftover rain. At breakfast, Liam barely touched his food. He stirred his cereal absently, gazed distant, lost in some inner war. After Mark left for work, it was just the two of us in the kitchen. Silence stretched between us, heavy but fragile, like glass waiting to crack. He was the one who broke it. You ever feel defective? His words were quiet but sharp enough to pierce through me. I turned slowly, caught off guard. What do you mean? He didn't look at me when he answered. His eyes stayed fixed on the half-dissolved cereal in his bowl, like something inside you came out wrong. Like no matter what you do, you'll never be the way you're supposed to be. So you just hide it. My heart sank. Those words were a mirror reflecting back memories of the life I once had. The person I used to be before becoming a wife, a stepmother. Before shrinking myself into shapes others expected. You're not broken, I told him, the words spilling out too fast, too certain. He let out a hollow laugh, one that carried no joy, only emptiness. Then why do I feel like it all the time? Finally, he lifted his gaze to meet mine. And in that moment, there was recognition, not attraction. Not anything dangerous, but something that told me he knew I understood. In the days that followed, the space between us shifted. though we never spoke of that conversation again. Instead, we filled it with safer topics: music, books, the way his classes bored him, the way some friendships had faded without reason. He tried to laugh off the loneliness, but I saw through it. I heard it in the pauses between his words, in the weight of the silences he left hanging. One night, Mark worked late, leaving the house unusually still. As I passed by Liam's door, I noticed it slightly ajar, a thin strip of light spilling onto the hallway floor. Something in me hesitated. I tapped lightly, and his voice floated out, quiet but welcoming. "Can't sleep?" I stepped inside. He was lying on the bed in a hoodie, headphones draped around his neck. He sat up slightly, eyes shadowed, but not surprised to see me. "Didn't really try," he said with a small shrug. I nodded, lingering by the doorway until he gestured toward the chair in the corner. "You don't have to leave." I sat. The silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable. It was soft, almost fragile, a kind of silence that holds more words than it hides. After a while, he spoke again. I never really talked to anyone about the real stuff." His voice cracked on the word real. "You can," I replied. He nodded slowly. "I know, but most people don't ask. Or they ask in the wrong way. You don't." Something tightened in my chest. The weight of being seen not just by him, but by anyone was terrifying. I smiled faintly, though it felt hollow, fragile. He looked at me then. Really looked. "You ever feel like no one sees you?" The question undid me. I opened my mouth, but nothing came. He looked at me like he already knew the answer. For a moment, his hand twitched against his knee as if reaching for connection, but he stopped himself. The moment passed and I left soon after. But my thoughts, DIDN single quotes, everything changed after that. And nothing changed. We still spoke casually, still smiled in passing, still played our roles as family. But beneath those moments, something else lived. Not love, not attraction, something far quieter. Us. Something that whispered of recognition and longing for understanding. Mark noticed. Maybe not at first, but eventually. His silences stretched longer. His kisses felt shorter, distracted. His eyes followed me with questions he never voiced. Then came the night that broke something between us. A rainy Thursday. The sky had poured itself out until the streets shimmered with water. Liam had caught a cold, and I carried a bowl of soup to his room, careful not to wake him. He was asleep when I entered, his breathing uneven, the blankets tangled around him. I set the bowl down gently and turned to leave. That was when Mark appeared at the top of the stairs. He was soaked through, rain dripping from his jacket. His eyes landed on me, then on Liam's door, then back to me. My robe hung loosely around me, my hair unkempt. In that instant, guilt painted the picture he saw. Though no wrongdoing had been done. "He's sick," I stammered, words tumbling too quickly. But Mark didn't answer. He turned away, walked down the hall, and shut our bedroom door behind him. That night, sleep remained a stranger. Mark didn't speak to me for 2 days. Liam stayed quiet too, as if sensing the tension that now wrapped around the house like a storm cloud refusing to pass. Once he texted me from upstairs. Just 2 words. Did he see? I never replied. I didn't need to. We both knew the answer. A week later, Liam packed for college. The silence in the house was unbearable as he moved boxes and bags. When it came time for him to leave, he handed me a folded letter before stepping into the car. His words were simple, scrawled in uneven handwriting. "You were the only person who made me feel real. I know we weren't supposed to get so close, but I'm grateful we did." For the first time, I felt like I wasn't broken. I cried for hours after he left. Not because I wanted him to stay, but because I didn't know how to return to the person I was before. Mark and I remained together, but we were different now. We spoke, we smiled, we went through the motions of a life we had built. But there were cracks, in the walls that no paint could cover. Some ghosts never leave. Some truths don't shout, they whisper. They live in hallway glances, in memories that resurface when you least expect them. In the quiet ache of what was never said aloud. And sometimes even when the line is never crossed. The weight of standing too close to it leaves you bleeding. Thank you for watching Unspoken Affairs. If this story moved you, share it with someone who knows what it's like to almost fall, and to carry the heavy silence of what could have been.